Shalom, family, and thank you so much for joining us for this week's weekly news update. And I am thankful for every single one of you that join us and who share the links and continue to help to awaken our brothers and sisters. So thankful for every one of you. I apologize in advance for the sound of the air conditioning in the background because there's no way I'm going to get through this broadcast without that thing on. So hang in there. I know it's a loud one. We have got the heat showed up in Arizona this week, and so it is coming in full force. And but we're thankful for that, and we expect to see a beautiful summer, and we're looking forward to that. So again, I encourage every one of you who are out there, who are part of the remnant right now that are awakening. Let me tell you something, your meme war, your posts on social media, your videos, your comments, your things that you're going out and doing, it is having an impact. And many times people don't realize what one person can do. You think, what am I? But it's amazing how just a word fitly spoken, apples of gold, you're dropping things that people need to hear. And it's very encouraging to me. So I'm glad I got a 5x5. That means you can hear me okay, and hopefully we're going to be good for the rest of the broadcast. And today we've got a lot of news to cover. There's a number of things that are happening right now in our world that are going to be affecting us. And if you guys remember, there's several things that we're now seeing that are being confirmed from previous broadcasts that we've talked about some things. So if you remember, we talked a lot about the fact that regardless of politics, there are forces at work that seriously want to do harm to the United States of America. If you remember, I've talked many times about a vision that Elohim gave me in 2014. And part of that vision, he said America would be neutralized. And I think that we're seeing a serious confirmation of that prophetic word. And I know that there have been many other prophetic words that Elohim has spoken in various places and through various vessels. So it's not one. When he began to speak and began to rebuke this nation and began to correct this nation, it was coming from everywhere. And so now we're seeing why he was saying that. We're seeing the results. And it's a difficult time. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you to everyone who makes watching this broadcast a priority. I am thankful for those of you that come by later in the week. So if you're watching the replay, we bless you and we're thankful for you. And that is completely acceptable. And that's one of the reasons why we do this. We began to hear that people were completely checking out from the news entirely, which I can understand. After all, much of what we call news has become what we used to consider news. Now today is a lot of it is propaganda. A lot of it is a part of a psyop that many of you have figured out. So that's a good thing. However, when we disconnect completely, when we aren't aware of anything, that can also put us in a position of vulnerability. And so we began to do these broadcasts. We put together a site called Remnant Watch for those that are brand new to the broadcast tonight. And Remnant Watch is where you're going to find a lot of the story we're going to be discussing throughout this broadcast and previous broadcasts. So if you pick up a previous broadcast and are wondering, hey, where's that story? You're going to find it on Remnant Watch. Amen. And so thank you for those of you that are helpful in that regard. I really appreciate our team here. And I'm very grateful for all of you who continue to send up notes and video or stories. We appreciate that. That really helps us as we review. So, I can't see everything. Doesn't matter how attentive I am. I'm going to miss things if I don't have help. So thank you to those of you like my sister Octavia, who routinely sends me. I mean, many times she sends me stories I've already seen, but it's kind of nice because you've got other eyes that are watching, and very grateful for teammates that are on board, that understand the severity of the hour, that understand the seriousness of the moment that we're in, and have respect for the seriousness of the moment, and have respect one for another. Amen. Because that's another biggie. Amen. And so tonight we're going to begin taking a look at some of the things that are going on. And our top story tonight is dealing with the ongoing challenge that we're having. And if you all remember, we began doing work on energy. I felt very strongly impressed that energy is going to be a huge area. Just the same impression that I had with regard to the oil. And this is what is being hacked into, folks, is the energy grid. And somebody said, well, how do you know it's really, hackers, or, could be government agents, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Well, that could be just a cover story. It doesn't matter. They're letting you know. They're letting you know ahead of time that we're going to be seeing some things in this arena. And we saw hints of this with the power stations that were being attacked. You guys remember that. And also, it seems like they're shocked all the time by the amount of power they need to make available to the people. So I'm still, I was just talking with Jeff this morning about that. Why does it always seem like they're surprised by the demand every year? That shouldn't be that hard to anticipate. So there's a reason for this. And so it doesn't really matter whether it is Russian hackers or our own guys hacking. It doesn't make any difference. The net result will be the same thing. And so this is something that we need to be aware of. You need to be awake. And you need to realize that if you're depending on fuel for generators, that has a limit. Here's something that we found out this week. Our brother Jeriel, he's down, I believe, in Mississippi, and he had a power outage. He had some tornadoes go through. He had some serious weather. All right. So he's prepared. He's a wise man. And so he has a generator. And he's been using that generator, very intelligently to try to get through the weekend. I know today his power finally came back on. Baruch Hashem, bless the living Elohim, because wow, that could be, that was catastrophic, right? Here's the thing, though. He's using a generator that required gas. So let's say he starts running out of gas, wants to run up to the station. The pumps don't work. They're electric. So even though they have plenty of gas to sell you, they can't pull it up out of the tank. And so there's no way to refill that generator. So even if there's gas right there, you can't get to it. And he found that out. Wow, was that ever a difficult situation? And so, again, bless the living Elohim, he was provided for and power came back on. But how many know that we got ourselves, Houston, we got ourselves a problem here, okay? And with the attempts to take down the grid, apparently there was a report that came out. Well, I should have thought of bringing that up. My apologies, folks. There was a report that came out that indicated that in order to take the grid down in the United States, you only needed about 8 points of failure. And so if they could create those 8 points of failure, they could take the entire grid down. And so there's folks that are really looking at how to destabilize the United States in order to accomplish their goals. Take a look at this. U.S. Energy Department gets 2 ransom notices as MOVE-IT hack claims more victims. And the U.S. Department of Energy got ransom requests from Russia-linked extortion group CIOP at both its nuclear waste facilities and scientific education facility that were recently hit in a global hacking campaign, a spokesman said on Friday. The DOE contractor, Oak Ridge Associates Universities, and Waste Isolation Pilot Plant at the New Mexico-based facility for disposal of defense-related radioactive nuclear waste were hit in the attack, which was first reported on Thursday. Data was compromised at the 2 DOE entities after hackers breached their systems through a security flaw in the file transfer tool MOVE-IT Transfer. So we're seeing more reports that this particular tool has been compromised. And that, of course, is opening the door for hackers to use. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but WikiLeaks released Vault 7 which were hacking tools used by intelligence agencies. And when they did that, it was only a matter of time before nefarious forces would take advantage of those tools to do bad things. Bad guys do bad things. What a shock. So here we go, folks, right? And this is telling you what they're planning for, and I believe what they're thinking. So I do believe that's the reason why I was impressed that energy is a big issue, and we need to listen carefully for solutions there. But I also believe that we have to be aware of the plans and the plots of our adversary, and they are considerable. Remember that the best way that I can say it to you all here is you have to remember that you're dealing with death row, condemned, desperate spirits. They have no appeals left. There's no court they can go to. There's nobody that can help them. So they are reaching the end of their tether. They know their time is about up, and the time of their judgment is nigh, and all of those associated with them. So, as he said, the lake of fire, which is for the devil and his angels. And so they know that their time is almost up. And that is why you're going to continue to see absolutely irrational grabs at power, absolutely irrational attempts to control, because they know their time is up and they're losing their grip on power. And I don't know if you noticed this, but if you take a look, if you pay attention, you're going to see that there's some big things happening in the world right now on the earth, or in the world, actually, in their world. There's shifts of power occurring right now. Right now, there's shifts of power occurring. So we need to be paying attention. And this is a time period that, again, the wise need to know how to move. This is not a time to dawdle. If you see that your area is an area that's going to be an area of contention, you need to learn when it's time to leave. I mean, where you go, that's up to you. But there's sometimes when it's just time to go. And we're going to hear that tonight. Okay? And so just be aware of that and understand that this is the hour that we're in. And you're seeing third world country activity going on here in the United States is turning us into a laughing stock. So we have, of course, many of you know that the former President Trump is being indicted. But you may not know that they've all but dropped the charges in New York. And I warned you all that I would not be surprised to see this case dismissed. So we're going to continue to watch to see what they're doing. But to me, and from what I've been discerning, this is all theatrics. And the end is already a foregone conclusion. But they're playing it out, if you will. It's even though it's like a chess game and they already have checkmate, but they're going to still play out the moves. That's where we are. And a former federal prosecutor is now coming out and indicating just exactly where the problems in this prosecution may be found. And so the former federal prosecutor finds numerous problems with the indictment documents against Trump. A former assistant U.S. attorney has looked at the 37-count indictment against former President Donald Trump and has concluded that the case is essentially political in nature and should never stand up in a real court of law. Trump was charged last week in connection with his handling of classified documents. He appeared in federal court in Miami on Tuesday and pleaded not guilty to all of them. In comments since, Trump has said that under provisions of the Presidential Records Act, he and he alone, as president, had the authority to declassify documents at will and declare them non-presidential records. And he's right. He's 100% correct. So what are they doing? This is the continuation of the witch hunt. And I said by the Ruach in 2018, I believe, he kept saying that word, witch hunt. And what I got in the Ruach was that that there is, in fact, a hunt of witches. They're hunting those that take advantage and mutilate and harm children. They're looking for those who are committing horrific acts of trafficking and mutilations, and other things. So this is a lot of the reason why you have the war in Ukraine. And if you just do a little bit of homework, you'll find out that there's tremendous um, evil in that part of the world that is being liquidated. So there's a shift going on right now. There's a shift of power that's occurring. And as we blow the trumpets, as you pray, the bad guys' places are being exposed, and the good guys, if you will, is it, Elohim always has those on earth that he uses, right? So they're relative good guys. But the point is that he's going to get his will done. And so he's moving right now. And if you're paying attention, you're going to see the winds start to shift. And where are we going to see those winds shift probably the most dramatically? I would suspect that you're going to see the most dramatic shifting going on in the Middle East. That would be the area that I would think that we as Bible prophecy students and wise people would pay attention, because this seems to be not only the center, if you will, of a lot of things, but remember that it is Jerusalem that is called the cup of trembling. And so we are wise to watch Israel. We are wise to watch this part of the world, if you will, as things develop. And what we're watching, as I said, we're watching the demise of the American influence. We're watching the fall of the West in terms of its ability to have power. And nothing indicates this more to me than this next story. So China's Xi calls for a Palestinian state to become a full member of the UN. So not only does China support the Palestinian state, but in addition to that, what they're doing is they're promoting that they should become a full-fledged member of the United Nations. Latest call comes as Asian powerhouse works to strengthen its role as a mediator in the Middle East. And I have to tell you, they're actually being effective. China has emphasized push for peace talks on basis of implementing a two-state solution. Chinese President Xi Jinping reiterated to Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas on Wednesday his call for the state of Palestine to become a full member of the United Nations, state media reported. Xi expressed Beijing's position during a summit with Arab countries in Saudi Arabia in December, although the latest call comes as the Asian powerhouse works to strengthen its role as mediator in the Middle East. Did you know that China is now the peace broker in the Middle East? Wasn't that always and perennially the United States and the West that was always trying to broker a peace deal? And that didn't work. So here we are watching China, watching the shifting of political power. And China has been taking the high road on several issues that is going to make them formidable going forward. Now remember, we have a Bible prophecy that talks about the drying up of the Euphrates River to make way for the kings of the east. Well, we have reports of the Euphrates River drying up. And so we know that that is in fact occurring right now. So this meeting and their increased interest, especially financial interest, portends the fulfillment of Bible prophecy, as they would seek to protect those interests and come to the aid of any that they have allied with. So if alliances are created here and then war breaks out against those forces which China has allied with, those Western forces would have to meet Eastern forces. And China is not Russia. Russia is fighting with kid gloves on, because Russia, as far as they're concerned, are fighting an internal battle with other Russians in a neighborhood called Ukraine. That's how the Russians feel about that. That may not be how the West describes it. It may not be how you feel about it. It may not even be how everybody around you might describe it. But as far as the Russians are concerned, Ukraine's just one of their neighborhoods, and it got a little uppity. So they got kid gloves. China does not feel that way. China made a statement last week that said, we are not helping Russia. if we were helping Russia, God couldn't help you. That's what they said. That was a little arrogant, but that's what they said. In other words, we would bring the rain. We wouldn't play. And I really do believe that that's true. I believe China is extremely formidable as an enemy. I believe tangling with China is a bad idea. But nevertheless, there are forces that are determined to bring war because they profit no matter who wins. They selling bullets to both sides, if you know what I mean. And so we need to be very careful with these developments as they come, because that can affect us. And you say, well, how can this, if we go into further conflict with China to the point where our trade relationship is severely interrupted, it already is experiencing major problems. Or hadn't you noticed that the Dollar Tree is now the Dollars Tree? Okay, it's not the Dollar Tree anymore. You want to know why? China's not playing either. Okay, they got hit with a lot of tariffs when Trump was in. Now they're getting it back, and believe me, it's going to get a little more intense. So this is an indicator, I believe, of that shifting that's occurring. And there are those that were in charge of stuff out there in the old eastern part of the earth that are not in charge anymore. So there's cleaning up going on all over the earth, wherever we are, wherever we're seeing. And speaking of Ukraine, we may as well update on this because this continues to be in the news. And I actually feel really sorry for this because it's almost like they got pushed into a fight they never could win. And, they got people sending them guns and sending them things, and all they're doing is getting them in trouble. All they're doing is getting them destroyed, which is very sad. Operations enter the second week of Ukraine's long-awaited and highly touted counteroffensive. Some basic conclusions can be drawn, even though the fighting continues and will continue to rage for some time to come. First and foremost, the counteroffensive gambit has failed. While there's still considerable combat strength left in the Ukrainian military, including more than 75% of the NATO-trained and equipped 60,000-strong cohort Ukraine has assembled in the past 8 months, fundamentally flawed assumptions about the quality of the force on which Ukraine and its NATO allies had placed their collective hopes for victory over Russia have been exposed. In short, Ukraine lacks the military capacity to overcome Russian defenses. Do we really need them to tell us that? Now, back, I think it was January, earlier this year, we said, and we have a very sharp audience here, so I know you all are right on top of it. And we weren't buying it. Still not buying it. You're sending over equipment. You're sending over, weapons. You may as well just go over and hand them over to the Russians, right? Didn't we already say that? And sure enough, they're not exactly telling us anything we didn't already know, Alan. And so that's exactly right. They're essentially just confirming our discernment that this was all theater and a ruse. And as a matter of fact, it appears that there's an effort by some to liquidate the fighting age males in that part of the world. Got to now ask that question. Why would someone be interested in doing that? Is there some plans that some have made for that part of the world where they would want to eliminate ahead of time those that may oppose them, right? So there's a lot more going on in this theater of operations than we knew about. And I believe we're going to continue to see more and more shakeup of that power structure. And here's some more evidence of that very same thing. I don't think the guys that have been in charge are doing very well. Okay? And 80%, did you know that 81% of Canadians want this guy out? They want Trudeau out of power, according to a poll and Advocates data survey conducted from June 1st to 11th of 2023 indicates that 81% of Canadians want a change in government and only 20% want Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to stay in power. So they got a plan for Canada. Man, they better do it now. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Are you catching that? If they got a plan for Canada, they better execute it quick. They're running out of time. before you know it, there will be elections and he won't win. And they know it. So unless they cheat, right? Which that's a strong possibility as well. But no, the people are awake in Canada. There's an awakening going on, saints. And it's a shift of power, folks. And people are waking up to reality. And that these corporations, by the way, corporations can't make laws. The only way that they can govern, a corporation can only govern if you are a citizen or a part of that corporation. Okay, so this ruse is being exposed worldwide. And there are actual governments that are participating in the exposing of the ruse. This is really getting interesting, folks, because we're now seeing the exposing of the ruse in a way that we didn't expect to see. And here's an example of that. In a recent visit to Saudi Arabia, Mr. Blinken went over there. And sure enough, you see him meeting with Saudi King Salman. Now, who wants to tell me what's missing from this photograph? I'll give you a moment. Okay, your time's up. Do you notice that the Saudi king or monarch, Prince Salman, is sitting next to the Saudi Arabian flag? Where's the American flag? I'll let you just look at that for just a moment. Things are happening, folks, that we may look back. I think we're going to look back on this time period, be very grateful that we were awake during this time period. But I think that we're going to see some very serious things in the near term. So, remember I told you that these forces, which are nefarious forces, these are not good guys. They hide with the good guys. So they hide behind good causes in what you think are good organizations, or what you think. Remember that the scripture warned us that in the last days they would call good evil and evil good. Remember that? Okay. So this is why we have to be very careful about what we're receiving in terms of the propaganda, because they would have you believe certain groups are awesome and other groups are bad, right? And again, there's none good under heaven, right? All have sinned and come short of the glory of Elohim. So we're not trying to say it in that sense, but there are the good people that are not trying to hurt children and, believing Elohim for salvation, good people. There's people that are that, and then there's people that are not. So that's what I mean by that, okay? And as we see the exposure in the Ukraine getting further, so again, more of this information is coming out. What are we finding out? That there's some serious behavior that's being exposed. Now, here in this article, this is a TASS news article, Ukraine is ready to pay West in people's organs for military assistance. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said Kiev regime is rapidly turning the country into a global hub of human organ trafficking. This is actually documentable fact, folks. They just happen to be the ones that are telling us. Ukraine is ready to trade the organs of its people for Western military assistance, Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said on the sidelines of the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum on Thursday. The diplomat said the Kiev regime is rapidly turning the country into a global hub of human organ trafficking. The Kiev regime is ready to pay anything for the military assistance it gets. It's now even come to the human organs of its citizens. A time will probably come when Ukraine will understand the true reason why its pretend U.S. and European friends cared about it. But that won't be soon enough. Still, better later than never. And so they're finding out little by little who they're working with. And there's a whole lot of folks that are suddenly going, hey, we're on the wrong side of this fight. We're not on the right side of this debate. Okay? There are things shifting shifting. And this is part of the changeover that I believe in the spirit that Elohim spoke about. Now remember, our enemy comes in. Like a flood, the spirit of the living Elohim will raise the standard against it. And so this is the standard being raised. And it takes a while because it takes a minute for people to realize they're being attacked. And now you're seeing counterattack out of counterattack. And how are you seeing? You're seeing information. You're seeing secrets being exposed. You're seeing whistleblowers. You're seeing people get the courage to stand up and say no more. You're seeing the pushback that comes in the Ruach only. And it comes because people pray. Okay? People pray. We began to pray in 2013 for this to happen. For this very thing. We knew this was all happening. We were connected with Exodus Cry. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that ministry. They were shouting this out. And we got that. And we caught it in the Ruach, began to pray. And knew that Elohim would answer. And sure enough, we're seeing the answer to our prayers, folks. And you may not realize just how serious this stuff has gotten. Here's a story that'll make the point. A California state senator tells LGBT non-affirming parents, you better flee the state. And rather than tell you what he said, why don't I just let you hear him for yourself?
Start protecting parents. That's just not happening. I've been here and witnessed a full frontal assault on charter schools, taking away parents' choice and how their children are going to be educated, to the detriment particularly of children of color. In recent years, we have put government bureaucrats between parents, children, and doctors when it comes to medical care. And now we have this where if a parent does not support the ideology of the government, they're going to be taken away from the home. Now, I agree with both Senator Wiener and Senator Laird that today it only involves divorce proceedings. And frankly, a judge can already factor this in. But I can assure you it's not going to end with divorce proceedings. In the past, when we've had these discussions and I've seen parental rights atrophied, I've encouraged people to keep fighting. I've changed my mind on that. If you love your children, you need to flee California. You need to flee. We are moving towards the pathway of the Handmaid's Tale. California is becoming the new Gilead, and it just breaks my heart. I'm born and raised in this state. I love this state. I'm not going to stay in this state because it's just too oppressive, and I believe in freedom, and so I'm going to move to America when I leave the legislature.
Did you hear that? He's going to move to America. So where's he living now, right? Who? Hey, that's a state senator. Okay, that is not just some guy on the internet. This is a person who is in the government of California, who is a senator in the government of California, who sees the pathway and the legislative path that the state has taken and is on the direction that they're going. He does sound heartbroken. You're absolutely right, my sister. That's exactly what I detected. And I do believe, yes, and I do agree with you, my brother. I think that took a lot of courage to stand up and say in that time period. But listen, folks, that's where we are. And you've got the awakening of both the foolish and the wise right now. So understand that, because some people were so excited about awakening. They didn't care, they just want everybody awake. But what you got to realize is some people awake to everlasting life and other people awaken to everlasting contempt. They suddenly realize that the Bible is true. The prophecies are true. Everything that Messiah told us would happen is happening. Everything that the prophets prophesied, Enoch prophesied, everything we saw in the scripture is coming to pass. And so may not be the way we thought, because we always get a little stuck with our own private interpretations and our own views. But then as the event occurs, we can now say, well, there you go. That's how it was fulfilled, right? And what's happening right now in to confirm this shifting. And I told you guys, I don't know if this corporation makes it through the summer. I mean, they kicked the can down the road, so we'll see. But they did the debt ceiling thing, so we'll see if they can kick it down the road. But I'm really doubtful that they'll make it through the summer. I got to tell you, I think something big's about to happen here, folks. And I feel it. I can see it. I can smell it. It's coming. It's coming. Okay. Right. And what's the indicator that one of the indicators that I think we can all see, if you just take a look, is how many countries are now aligning with BRICS. So again, that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa are the hub, and they are now about ready to launch their own competing currency. We talked about that last week, to compete with the dollar for international trade, right? So take a look at this. We've got 150 firms from 25 unfriendly states that are taking part in the SPIEF 2023 organizing committee. And in St. Petersburg, this is in Russia, as many as 150 companies from 25 unfriendly countries took part in the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum this year. And why that's important is because more than 900 agreements totaling more than 4 trillion rubles was agreed to during this gathering. So what they're experiencing is considerable. They're experiencing a very, very big boost to their growth, and I think it's fairly safe to say that the world powers and governments are starting to figure out where this is headed, right, and which direction this stuff is going. And the more they see that, the more that they are watching, this manifest. That's going to and think that. So we've got in the streets of the United States, we've got military that is now coming into the streets of many cities in the United States. And I believe that this may be an anticipation of shifting of power and shifting of financial tools and what have you. And I think they're concerned about unrest. I also think that we have to be aware that, yes, this is in the United States of America. This is all in the United States. So what you're seeing is actual footage of helicopters and Ospreys and all types of different military equipment coming into civilian areas throughout the United States. And so if you weren't aware that this was happening, allow me to make you aware. And so this is, again, part of this theatrical performance. And I do believe, again, that we are gearing up for a very, very sort of scary summer, because there's so much that we don't know right now is, basically under wraps. I know that they have a effort to unseal indictments, and so this may be in anticipation of something to the tune of 400 and change, or almost 500,000 sealed indictments that are perhaps at present about to be unsealed. So who knows? We may be about to see the unsealing of very, very high level indictments that may be the reason for some of this activity. So we're going to have to wait and see. But as I said at the beginning of this month, and even towards the end of the previous month, if you go back to some of our previous weekly news updates, And we've talked about that. And we talked about that the level at which that they were dealing on, now you're seeing things like the flag not being there. Okay? Start putting it together, folks. 10,000-foot view. Start putting this together. What are we seeing here? I believe that they are aware of what we're not aware of. I believe that there are forces that know exactly what's on its way. And unfortunately for the United States, the people of the country are most likely to be the last ones to figure it out. Okay? And here we have, again, it's just more indication of this. So BRICS, Egypt ditches US dollar, can trade with the bloc. They're calling it the bloc. All right? Look at this. According to the country's supply minister, Ali Masheli, Egypt is bonding the U.S. dollar in its trade with the BRICS economic bloc. Moreover, the move follows similar actions taken by hosts of countries aligning with the bloc's de-dollarization efforts. So what are they getting ready for? Yeah, they know what you are slowly figuring out, okay? And so here it says Egypt to settle trades with China, Russia, and India in local currencies. Oh, that is humongous. And it's very, very big because, again, this is where the dollar was getting its strength. If you have to trade in the U.S. dollar, then the dollar stays strong internationally. It can be traded by the United States to buy goods abroad. But if they no longer take those abroad, now we have to trade on a actual dollar, or a currency for currency basis. We're not as strong. We're just like everybody else, and the lazy United States gets exposed. And that's exactly what, excuse me, I believe these forces know. They have been watching work ethic. They have been watching the decline of intelligence. They have been watching the obsession with social and entertainment things. They have been watching this country for years, because remember, when you are the top of the heap, when you are the biggest and baddest on the planet, as they like to say, right? Well, then everybody wants you dead. Everybody wants you gone. So they've been scouting you forever. And they've been trying to figure out your weaknesses forever. And the United States is practically giving it away. As a matter of fact, there's some that believe some of these international overtures are essentially trading away you. If you're in the United States, if you're here, they're trying to trade you away. And so I just want to encourage you to not be afraid, because the reason why they're so desperate, and the reason why they're having to make these deals, and the reason why when they go on international trips and they go out there and they want to negotiate, they have to stand and sit there embarrassed, because they don't even have a flag, right? Why is that? Because your prayers are working, saints. So they can't even figure out who their real enemy is. Amen? And they don't realize that they are trying to contend with those who are protected by the Ruach HaKodesh in the hour of battle. And these are people who stand against the demonic by the blood of the Lamb, by the word of their testimony, and they do not love their lives even unto death. And that is the thing required in the Ruach, in the Spirit, for it to matter. People pray who aren't like that, it's not going to matter. Your prayer's not going any higher than the ceiling. But the people that are sincere, that Elohim has set apart, that are interceding, and we have some right here on the chat, that are powerhouses of prayer, intercessors, sentinels, that if it weren't for them, their cities would have fallen long ago. And so I have massive respect for the remnant, massive respect for your anointing, for your calling, for your purpose. I have the highest respect for you honorable servants who stand at the ready and pray and intercede for the breaking of all of these bondages that are keeping the nations enslaved. And you know it, and you figured it out. And I'm so proud of all of you who are awake and who are shining your light before men. And you know that we're opposed. We're not just opposed by the Satanists and the Luciferians, We're also opposed by those who are fakers and liars inside our ranks, those who preach false doctrines, who preach, who basically work for the enemy, but within the camp. And this is where Messiah warned in Matthew 10 that brother would turn against brother. And so we're waking up and we're realizing that, this isn't a light matter. It's not a small thing to not know the King's name, to be preaching a false name. And these demons are starting to manifest like they've never manifested before. Like, folks, this is getting intense. Look at this. This is one of our last stories for the night. Over 300 dead after cult leader urges them to fast to, quote, meet Jesus. More than 300 bodies have been found in Kenya after a cult pastor encourages followers to starve themselves in order to meet Jesus. The number is anticipated to rise further as authorities plan to conduct more exhumations in the coming days. I don't even know what to say. It is so horrific. This is such a horrible reality of where we are and what we're facing and the forces that are at work. And they have come but for to steal, kill, and destroy. Now, how many know that there is no way that you're going to commit such a crime, but for that you are getting demonic assistance, that you're helped by the demons? And we shared a story the other day where a man under clear demonic influence. Don't even think about it. It's not mental illness. No, that you do not put a bullet in your 3 sons' heads and try to kill your wife unless a devil's involved. And you may be sorry the next day. I'm sure you are. But while you're doing it, you know there's a devil involved. There's a demon, if not a whole bunch of them. Okay? A gang of them. And they were hooting and hollering and pushing until that person woke up and realized what they had done. And then they begin the crying and the weeping and the gnashing of teeth because they didn't think to keep their vessel. They didn't think it was important to preserve their vessel. They didn't think that they needed their parents. They didn't think they needed their spouse, and they didn't think they needed their house, right? So off they go. And we're going to see a lot of the results of being uncovered. We're going to see a lot of the results of not having power on your head because of the angels. Okay? We're going to see what that meant. We're going to find out. Then we won't have to worry about how that's interpreted because we're going to see the results. And I suggest to you that you're already seeing it. If you drive down Philadelphia, if you drive to some of these inner cities, and you turn on your camera and just drive down the cities, you're going to see people drugged out. You're going to see people comatose. You're going to see people that have given up. And there's good reason for it. There's some serious forces and serious spirits that are working against the simple family. I mean, you're under siege, folks. I hope you understand that. You're under siege. And so when we see people in power, this is really important. When we see people in power, we have President Trump, who knows the inside, and he comes out and says they're all corrupt. They're lying. They're deceivers. They keep prosecuting him, and they keep coming up bupkis, right? He's telling the truth. They really are that corrupt. When a state senator is telling you, get out of this state, these people they've lost it, he's seeing something, right? How about to school teachers? Thank you, Octavia, for this next story. How about school teachers? When they start telling you to get your kids out of these schools, you need to listen. You know, this is something very, very serious. Look at this, a school principal. This is a principal, right? So these are authority figures, people who know and have the inside track, and they know what's going on, and they know what's coming down, all right? And look at this. The school principal quits her job to homeschool her 3 kids on a 10-acre homestead. And what does she say? I want to raise thinkers. I don't want to raise robots. I don't want to raise factory workers. Okay. I don't want to raise people that are programmed by the New World Order. Okay, I don't want my enemies teaching my children. I want to raise thinkers. I just love that article title. A former school principal who grew frustrated with the school system quit her job and instead chose to homeschool her 3 kids in a 10-acre homestead, merging her children's learning with their land and home. She has created an immersive, real-world educational experience based on her kids' unique needs. What a concept. Went into the world, figured out that this was a lie, and started waking up. And I see somebody say, well, I hope she grabs in. Folks, people like that, courageous like that, Elohim's going to grab that person. Like I told you, it doesn't matter where, in what part of the sweater the thread starts to come unraveled. It might be the environment. It could be education. Okay. It could be any of these areas. It doesn't matter. Once they start looking for the truth and they start getting an appetite for that, won't be long. The truth just needs to, you don't need to defend the truth. You just need to set it loose. The truth knows how to defend itself, and they'll find the truth. If they're seriously hungering and thirsting for righteousness, they will be filled. So the scripture cannot be broken. Messiah said that if you hunger and thirst for righteousness, you will be filled. So if someone is not filled, it is because they are not truly hungering and thirsting for righteousness. And we saw in that previous story that we have fakers in the ministry. We have people that are pretenders, who are not real, who are not authentic. And so let me encourage you, do not get sucked in with every sob story and issue that people have. You need to be smart in this hour, and realize that this is a battle that we're in, and we're not going to be. It's not going to be an easy time, and especially as you are starting to really see fruit. This is one of the things, and it doesn't matter who you are. You have to bring forth good fruit, and your fruit needs to remain. And people are watching. There are times when people, they take the quiet ones for granted. I go quiet for a long time, sometimes a couple of years, and then bloop. Now we're going to have a chat. You know what I mean? And so I think that there's a lot that's going on right under the radar, and I believe Elohim's going to have a chat, and he's going to pull people aside, and they're suddenly going to realize they need a wilderness experience to clean up some messes. Amen. And I do believe Elohim is right now opening the eyes of people all across the earth to how evil is. Like just showing them evil, just plain evil. Just see this is evil. See this? See what they're doing here? This is evil. He's taking them for a walk. He seems to be walking them through the various halls of wicked, halls of iniquity, I want to call it. He's walking the world. He's walking the earth through the halls of iniquity, like all their secrets are being revealed, just as he promised. Another prophecy being fulfilled, that all the secrets would be revealed, and that nothing hidden, there is nothing hidden that will not come abroad. So he made a promise that he would expose all these things. And just in the last 6 months, think about all the things that have been exposed. Not to mention, the last several years since we came back from the sea in 2015. What a different world we have today than even 2015. And yet I feel some of the same despair that I felt then. I feel as if there are those who are, and this is why we do these. So we want to encourage you out there. Don't give in to the despair. Don't quit. Don't give in to, whatever failures you had in the past. Own them. Own them. Don't make any excuses. Nothing gets the remnant more irritated than hearing excuses. Don't make excuses. Just say, you know what? Didn't do that right. Had some bad results. Not going to do that again. Period. Now we're done. See how nice that was? Nice and neat, simple, few sentences. Don't have to talk too much. Don't need to listen to an hour-long dissertation about our reasons. We need to stop doing that. We need to recognize that we have made some errors in our assumptions. We gave people way too much credit. We gave them power over our food. And what did we realize? That was a bad idea. We gave him power over our water, and what did we realize? That was a bad idea. We gave him power over our air. I don't know when we gave him this, by the way. Can somebody please show me where we gave them power to spray whatever they wanted to spray? I don't know where we gave that, but wherever it is, I'd like to take it back. I hereby rescind any authority anywhere on the earth that anyone took and thought they had to spray over my property. Amen. And I believe I speak for all the remnant. Ain't nobody authorizing you to spray on us, right? So the air, the water, the food, medicines are being exposed at a level now. We're finding out about parasites and cancer. Look that up. Okay, look that up. This is going to be fascinating. We're finding out about energy. Boy, did they ever lie to us about that. Okay? And tell me this, all these big shot energy people, there are all these energy systems and their energy planners. Are you trying to tell me that it hadn't occurred to any of them to create uninterruptible power supplies where they could store power coming from the power station to preserve that community? So should there be a blackout, they would go to battery backup power for 3, 4, 5 hours, enough to cover the community, and therefore there would be no blackout and there would be no outage, right? And so then you would never even know when Bob's over there replacing a transformer, because your whole community's on battery backup power for that short period of time. No, they got to make you sit and wait while they go out and fix something that they should have fixed when they built it. They just needed a little bit. You raised $8 million, you needed $9 million, you need another $1 million for the batteries. You're going to store the power in and then send it down the road. Okay, like my battery backup does right under my desk. And the power goes out and I don't even know it. Okay, and they could have done that, and they didn't. And it irritates me because the more I learn about power, we have a big generator here. We got a 250,000 watt generator. That's a 250,000 watt. You know how many camps I could power? 10 camps, 12 camps with that. Identical to this one on the same generator, right? Think about that. Just contemplate that I was able even to buy that I even have it. It's even here. And then now think about that again, for communities. Wait a minute. You mean we could buy our own? Yeah. And you could generate your own? Yeah. So why are you exactly? I don't even have to finish these sentences. You already know. You're going, wait a minute. I'm trying to tell you guys. This is one of the reasons why we're doing some of what we're doing, okay? And disasters happen. Yes, that's why you have backup plans. That's why you have backup systems. And there shouldn't be anything that completely makes you vulnerable, like you're waiting for the bus, okay? Like you're sitting out in the rain waiting for the bus. That's how it feels when you're waiting for them to turn on the power. You don't know when it's coming. You don't have any idea. Just like waiting for the public transportation. It's supposed to be here, but I don't know. You're just waiting. You're at the mercy of the public, right? And so this is the reality, folks. And we were warned. Yes, I did warn the nation to prepare for the coming persecution. Thank you, my brother. That is a fact. We warned you. So if you're still not getting it, well, I don't have to warn you anymore because now it's here. The warning came true. The manifestation, the declaration. What did he say? Wipe them out; they'll be remembered no more. All right, and so this is what we're seeing right now. We're seeing, we're being embarrassed out there. We're being embarrassed by things like this, and this is a reflection of us. It's saying we're the bumbles. It says we're the ones that don't know what we're doing, right? It's a reflection of our foolishness that we've got some guy out here supposedly representing. Didn't even remember to bring his flag. This is a joke, folks. So I pray you're waking up. I pray that, Octavius says, I don't miss waiting for the city bus. Anybody who grew up in a big city knows that there's always a time in your life, sooner or later, whether young or old or somewhere in between, where you're going to be waiting on public transportation. And the same is true with public water. The same is true with public food. This is basically cafeteria food half the time. If you look at the difference between American food and the same brand sold in Europe, is going to have different ingredients because they put different. They dump all the nonsense in the United States, and so this is where we are. And if you're turning your eye away, you're ignoring it. These are the reasons why we have the commandments about what to eat and what not to eat clean food. And water is a very, very big important thing to make sure is perfectly clean. And so we're now seeing a lot of people suddenly waking up to the realization that their water is dead. So even though it's, quote, clean water, it's dead water. What they put it through is dead. The water is supposed to be living. Yeah. It's supposed to be living water. So there's more that we could talk about that, but we're kind of out of time for tonight. And so just understand that, we cannot just walk away. We have to realize where we are. And if you're going to be in a certain part of the country and you're saying, let's say you're in Oklahoma, right? And you're gonna pitch your tent there. You're gonna plant the flag there. Okay, well, you got to find a quality water source, right? You've got to be somewhere where you've got to be conscious of the spray patterns and how badly the soil is contaminated. Things like that matter because that's all stuff you're gonna have to clean up. Okay, so if you, for example, were oblivious to the news and decided to move to Ohio, I'm sure you can buy real estate real cheap up there right now, right? And you had no idea why it was being sold cheap. You would then need to, that soil is going to affect you. How many know that there's going to be some serious effects from some of this stuff for years to come? Because they know exactly what they're doing. And these forever chemicals, there's a reason why they call them that. So those things are in the water and in the soil. They're not going away quickly. And that's why I believe people need to go to virgin places, go to places where hasn't been overused, or rural communities where there's not been tons of traffic, and you can buy a house like Tony and Octavia did, or others, where they're getting away from the high traffic areas, high density population areas. I believe that's wisdom. I really do, saints. And I don't care whether you're in the West or anywhere. I think it's time that you be in a place where you can see someone coming up your driveway for 15 minutes. You got time to. That's how far away you should be for. That's how much space you should have, and the Earth's got plenty of it. The Earth's got plenty of space. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. There's plenty of space out there. I want to encourage all of you that we had 2 people that helped us with the energy systems, and if you're watching tonight, thank you so much for your support and your patience with us. Your 2 systems, you're fine. Everyone else, what we're going to be doing is putting out information to help you put together those systems, and we're going to show you where to get the resources that you need. So we're going to do everything we can. We have to drive to check the mail. That's good. We're going to do everything we can to help in this area. I do believe power is a big deal. And if you're depending on diesel or gas or even solar, unless you're in a high sun area like we are, solar is not a very safe thing. And even then, it is a dead giveaway in a time of crisis that you have power when others don't. So there are certain elements of that you may want to be careful with. So if you want an energy system and you want to have energy solutions that don't require those things, stand by, because that's what we've been working on, and those are the things that we're going to share with you. And yes, we use some of the components that came out during the solar industry's innovations and repurpose them. So it's nowhere near as expensive as doing a solar system, for example, on your house. So just be aware of that, and keep your eyes peeled. Come on over to remnanthouse.org/family, and you'll see every update that we have. We're always putting things back there. Encourage you to join us for that. Thank you so much for sharing the links, for liking, for subscribing if you're not subscribed. Thank you for encouraging with your notes, your comments. I really appreciate it. And for those of you that are members of this house, we are so grateful for you. We're so thankful for every one of you that made a priority of not only declaring the gospel of the kingdom, but doing everything we could to help our brothers and sisters in this time of great peril. may I encourage you all to find your fold, to find the place that Elohim has set aside for you in this time, so that you can finish well and you can demonstrate your love not only for Elohim, but for one another. Thank you again for joining us. It is my honor. You are so welcome. May Elohim bless each and every one of you. We'll see you again next week at the same time. See you then. Shalom.